I'm an artist, a teacher and a writer. As I have a tendency to be doing too many things at the same time and have an interest in politics and society in general, I describe myself overall as a cultural activist, which means I'm alert, sentient and ready to pounce at any moment. It seems to me that life isn't such a difficult thing to do, if only we think about it a little bit more carefully and consider it a little bit more carefully. I realise other people have great difficulties, but I just enjoy my life so much, and I always have. And one thing I'd say was that when I first went to school, even at the age of 4, I saw it as a massive intrusion into an otherwise interesting life. I've managed to collect an awful lot of clutter around me in various buildings, studios, offices, writing rooms and so on. Lots of paintings, lots of drawings, lots of writing, but objects, things, books, things which have an immortality that I won't share with them. So I'll be a difficult person not to bury, but to certainly clear up afterwards.
For a lot of people, drawing is about expression. For me, drawing is less about that. Expression, I always say, will look after itself. It cannot be denied. It's always going to be there, whether we like it or not. So expression will always have a part to play in our drawing, but it shouldn't be the driving force of our drawing. It should be something that is ancillary, that comes along later, that we recognise as having another kind of value. So representation is the great enemy of drawing. Have you got to be able to draw like Michelangelo to be a practicing fine artist anymore? No, you haven't. It will disappoint a lot of people to hear me saying that, but you haven't. We've come in the last 120 years or more to understand the art of the uneducated, the unsophisticated, the primitive, if you like, though I'm not very keen on that word, and to see that it has a value, particularly in respect to the teachings of Freud and other psychologists and anthropologists, that this may be a more direct way into human feeling and understanding and sensibility than the traditional way. So I think, we are being asked in our culture to be a lot more open-minded about what human possibility and potential is than we might have been in the past. So when we were safely behind the wagons, we could adopt these philosophies. But I think we're no longer safely behind the wagons. So we have to re-examine these philosophies very, very carefully indeed. The tyranny of words, as Wittgenstein calls it, which I think is applicable across all the arts. It isn't just in the visual arts. It applies across music, drama, poetry, literature, the visual arts. It's the tyranny of language which gets in the way of real deep understanding and appreciation and moving forward into new ways, new paths, new ways of being.
Understanding is a kind of overrated idea as well, because I get so many people who ask me about understanding art or understanding music or understanding poetry or understanding dance. And that's not the point, is it? I always say to people, you have to understand the pamphlet, the leaflet that comes with the table from IKEA. That's what you have to understand. You don't have to understand the poem. You have to experience it. It's like breathing or swimming. It's not something you have to understand. It's something you engage in.
By producing, like I call my graphic essays, concatenations, where there are layers and layers and layers and layers of meaning, history, understanding, observation, which all go together in a sense to present a picture which can't in a sense be described. It can only be appreciated. When I was doing my first graphic essays, I would spend hours drawing in the evening and Hilary would play the piano and then go to bed. And I'd come to bed a little later on, not too late. And I'd say, "Where have you been?" And she said, "I've been for a walk in the drawing." And to me, that was like an adventure. She enjoyed taking part in every night because it was something that she could find real meaning in and real excitement in. and new discoveries. When I meet young people, especially when I meet foundation students, I'm excited by their will to do things, their will to change things, their optimism, you know, and their grasp of a possible future. They are incredible people, young people, and I won't have a word said against them, really. I think what the foundation course brings to the students and the teaching staff alike is the fact that we enter a white room. There is no knowledge in that room, only the knowledge we contain. So we're the containers of knowledge. The knowledge that we will acquire has to be sought after, has to be acquired, has to be refined and examined, criticised, modified, and so on. But this is about you and you alone. This is only about you and the relationship to the discipline. So in a sense, you have to find your own way through it, your own path through this discipline, which means that you construct the knowledge. The knowledge is made with us, with you, with each other, in a way that doesn't happen in any other course. It can't happen in any other course, because art is unique in this sense. It's a question of finding the path, finding the right path. Not necessarily the answers, in a sense, are always going to be very, very open-ended. But it's that business of understanding that the truth is elusive and it will only be approached and never won over. We will never go past that point. So that to me is the really critical point. It's a philosophical adventure. We're searching for a greater truth. We know we'll never get there. We understand we'll never get there. But we still search and we still reassess and we still remake these claims and challenge and move forward. And we never finish anything either. We only abandon things. Things that ever arrive at a point where there's no further conclusion to be drawn. Arriving at that point is a kind of magical moment. It isn't a question of, is it finished? It is a question of, have we asked enough questions? And have we got enough answers? When I was in Palestine, I used to watch the swallows coming in of an evening and think, why here? You could be travelling anywhere from South Africa to Oslo. Why here? You little birds, why here? Instinct, obviously, all sorts of things. But if you had a choice to make, where would you live? People used to live in Wattsville. And I used to think, why here? Why are you going up and down on the bus every day to your home at the valley, 20 miles up the valley? Why are you doing that? And it's an absolutely extraordinary and wonderful thing. And it's what makes human beings what they are. Makes us all this peculiar. Out of all these individuals, these peculiar individuals arise and make their mark in the world, make their brief strut and fret, and then are gone no more. But each one is so different, so valuable, cannot be denied. So I think our Welsh dream is about enabling and becoming an example in a way for the rest of the world to follow. I have a lot of hopes for the future of Wales. I shan't be a part of it probably, but I'd like to think that our politicians could grow down rather than grow up and become more realistic about what the world is and what our place in it is and what our potential is as people. We've always looked to big ideas. We've always sort of thought that if we had a new industrial revolution, it would save the day. I never believed that for a moment. Things have changed. We're moving on. Our world needs to be much more ecologically sound. It needs to be ethical and ecological. If we had a moral and ethical finance industry, manufacturing industry, agricultural industry, tourist industry, if we made that our aim, we could actually create something very positive. It could come from small beginnings. It wouldn't need huge cash outlays. But we are ideally placed. We're a small country. We've got a huge landmass because it's all rippled. It's corduroy. If it was stretched out, it'd be as big as Mars. But it's not. So there's a lot of potential in our country. We are a small people. We're a community. We believe in each other. Costa Rica was a country that was founded in 1949. The army took over after American Fruit Company and got rid of the army and disbanded it, formed a police but not an army, so they had no military force, and they put in place a civilian government, which has been fine up until recently when the drug cartels have been a bit too much of a problem. But all their tourism, all their trading is eco-friendly. It's ethical. All tourism is ploughed back into the local economy. It isn't sent to the Costa Brava to buy yachts. So the Costa Ricans have got a small country, 4 million. They take all their disputes to the Hague, to the world, whatever it's called, justice thing in the Hague. They don't argue, they don't fight, they don't quarrel. But they do it that way, they do it ethically. And we could do the same.
I've read a lot of obituaries of people and friends who are fighting a long battle against cancer or winning a war, and I don't believe in that language. I've tried to use the language of conciliation, and I say to my tumours every morning, when I die, you die. But if you'd like to live longer, I'm quite happy for you to live with me, but please live quietly and live gently and don't do me any harm, and I shan't do you any harm. And then we can both live our full lives. You'll be ancient cancers and I'll be an ancient human being. How about that? I mean, I've got a disability thing for my car, which when the letter came said to make the last years or months of your life more comfortable and more convenient. Which I thought, oh, thank you very much. It runs out in 2015. And I thought to myself, is there anything they know that I don't know? So, and when I first had it, I didn't need it. So I used to put it in the car in the disabled parking bay and then deliberately run from the car, especially if there's a crowd around, just to distress the passers-by. But he's not bloody disabled, is he? Look at him.
Yeah, I feel optimistic in the long term for humanity. I do. I think, you have your personal optimism and your long-term optimism for humanity. I think people have got to wake up, and I think they will. For myself, it's going to be a bit more of a difficult question, but I do feel optimistic, yeah. I'm pleased to say. Keep smiling.